Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. For those that don't know, my name is Jasmyne Epps. I am the product manager for GovHub, and I'm super excited to share with you all some of the changes that are coming to GovHub this year. So let's get into it. So taking a look at the agenda here, first we'll have a brief history lesson on how the current design of GovHub came to be. Then we'll dig into where we wanted to go with this new design and some of the decisioning around building it out. Next, we'll discuss some of the changes this new design will have on the content creation experience. And lastly, we will chat about what to expect for the rollout of the new theme to GovHub. And of course, we expect you to have some questions, so please pop them into the Q&A feature of this webinar, and we will get to them at the end. All right, so as with any major change, it's important to reflect on where we began to really appreciate where we're going. The history of GovHub how GovHub came to be is great to recap because it was a huge years-long undertaking. I'm sure some of you remember that we learned so much from. I believe that experience really improved our internal design eye and gave more depth to our goal of maintaining our content and user-centric approach to innovating GovHub. So way back in 2017, we started the discovery of migrating what we referred to then as the platform on Drupal 7 to what we now know as GovHub to Drupal 8. This was a major version update and an opportunity for us to develop new ways to create and maintain content. It was actually a complete overhaul of how our content editors maintain their content. It required new training and just a new way of thinking of certain concepts like reusable content and document management, for instance. These are just a few screenshots from the Wayback Machine to remind you all of how the sites used to look on the platform before the migration. The migration was also an opportunity to update the look and feel of our sites. So after months of immersive research conducted by our design partners at the time, IDEO, we sought to offer a more modern design to accompany the new approach to building content. The migration to Drupal 8 gave life to more uniformity across our sites, while also providing agencies with some flexibility, more visual elements to still be able to build unique pages that spoke to their brand voice. But it has now been 6 years since the inception of that project, and so much of what we considered modern web design trends have changed since then. So we felt it was time for a refresh. So during the Drupal 8 migration, you may recall mentions of the design system we named Orchard, which we patterned after the current theme, which we dubbed Forest. So in an effort to keep with the nature concept, keep that nature concept going, we thought Bloom would be fitting to name this theme. Bloom represents new, fresh, and inviting, all of which speaks to the overarching objectives for introducing a new look to GovHub. So to quote our illustrious senior UI UX designer, Rachel Hart, the shifts we implemented the most were to make it more progressive and modern, more dimensional, more light and bright, and less complex. So along with our designers from Lullabot, Rachel led the discovery for the new theme by establishing the design attributes that they felt the new theme should address. With those attributes established, they assessed how the current theme measured against those design attributes and where they felt the current theme fell short. Then they identified opportunities for improvement with the new theme, areas that could move us closer to our goals with the new design. For instance, eliminating some of the white space, which is something we've heard a lot of times from our content editors, adding more dimension and creativity to the elements as opposed to the current more conservative look and feel. So this exercise allowed us to prioritize our tasks needed to hit these goals and really provide that refreshing new look to GovHub. One overarching goal was to practice inclusive design, making sure our theme was future facing and took into account all of the visitors and all of the different ways that the content on our sites can be consumed. Also, we wanted to make sure that the design was intriguing and inviting. You know, interacting with your government shouldn't be intimidating, and we felt that that should be communicated visually. Another goal that became apparent was to reduce complexity, starting with how our editors made decisions about where and how to display their content. We saw this design refresh as an opportunity to reduce the amount of decisions for editors when it comes to choosing background colors and font sizes and what design treatment is best for their content. Then we reduced complexity for the visitor, introducing less cruft on the front end and cleaning up unnecessary code that impacted performance. So clean and concise, easy to identify the important information is what we were going for with this design. So Drupal, being an open source tool maintained by a worldwide community of developers, also ignited our desire to be even more open by sourcing a free font in this design. So this is a departure from the licensed font that you have to pay for that we're currently using in our theme. So now that you have an idea of some of the goals with this new design, let's talk about some of the changes that are coming to the content creation experience. Much like with the migration to D8, we took this design refresh as an opportunity to reimagine some of our content types, starting with heroes. So the top screenshot is what heroes look like now, and the bottom is the redesigned hero. And you can clearly see how much more inviting this piece of content will be in the new thing. It shifts the focus of creating a hero to being more intentional about choosing an appropriate and large image to pair with more simple intro text. So harping back to introducing more simplification, heroes will no longer be reusable micro content and instead be a part of creating a landing page. This gets us closer to the true nature of hero implementations, which is just essentially a display of the most pertinent information at the top of the page. So now this design was actually reviewed by our GovHub advisory committee. So for those that don't know, the advisory committee is comprised of content editors across several different agencies, and we meet quarterly to discuss innovating GovHub. So we like to talk about what are some of the pain points you all are experiencing? What are some things on your wish list, some things you wish GovHub could do? So it's a really great chance for us to be able to work through some of our decision-making with the content editors who will be affected by it the most. So we showed the committee some of the iterations of the designs of the heroes, and their feedback helped us land on this one. So if you are interested in joining the advisory committee, we're gonna pop a link in the chat for you to go to our site and sign up, and we'll definitely welcome you and love to have more people on the committee. So speaking of landing pages, we are making them less complex as well to create by reducing some of the design options. So, and we're also introducing a new design option for the background of sections called automatic, which will give you a design treatment as soon as you place a section, eliminating the need to think too deeply about how the section should be styled. So this allows our content editors to, again, focus more on their content and less on being UI, UX designers. So along with less complexity, we wanted to reduce redundancy, starting with tiles. So currently there are 3 options for tile design, including icon tiles, which we thought was too much like icon lists. So in Bloom, we decided to limit the tile options to just 2, image and image with text. So we're making them more of their own content type and less redundant to icon lists. And so yeah, so those are going away, but there'll be more about that to come. So don't worry too much. And then another redundancy we discovered was with text blocks. So text blocks and promos were essentially the same content-wise. So we decided to descope the text blocks completely and migrate their content to promos. So in Bloom, promos will only have 1 style treatment as opposed to 2 like they currently have in the Forest theme. The other design treatment is not going away, however, but instead will be a new micro content type called Spotlight. So Spotlight will essentially be a version of what is now the promo big description design treatment, and that you currently see in Forest. So as one micro content is going away, we are introducing a new one. All right, so now that we've talked about some of the changes, really high level, let's talk about what to expect from the rollout, because I'm sure you all are interested in knowing more about that process. So let's first talk about what it is. The rollout is just a visual refresh to your fonts, the layout, and the components. So it is just a design refresh. It is a short engagement to plan when your new design will take effect. So shouldn't be too cumbersome of an engagement, and we like to keep it short and sweet. So it is also a cleanup of unnecessary code and eliminating options. So like I mentioned, we took this opportunity to really clean up the code to improve performance of the theme, and also get back to the root of what you all do, which is create content, and less eliminate some of the decision making around how the content looks. And similar to the migration to D8, it will be rolled out in rounds. So you all be assigned a round, and of course, all that information is to come. So what it is not is a migration of your site's data. So if you recall, the migration to D8 was a lot of code freezes and cleaning up of data before we moved it over. And it was just a very tedious and intense process. This is not that. So wipe your brow. This is also not a lengthy undertaking. Like I said, that migration was, months sometimes of us interacting with you all to get your content ready for that migration. Again, this is not going to be a lengthy undertaking for your team. And it is not a complete change to how you create and edit and publish and manage content. I briefly talked about some of the new content types and maybe some cleanup on the node edit forms, but essentially the way that you go about creating content should remain the same. We wanted to be sure not to introduce any more complexity or any more changes to what you are currently doing. So it should be pretty much the same. All right, so next steps. The outreach team will be contacting you to plan your site's onboarding to Bloom. Again, this is where we're going to start placing you in rounds and aligning with your schedules and things like that. So be on the lookout for correspondence from the outreach team about the rollout. We also would like you to take this opportunity to look at your current landing pages and your program and service pages and just make sure that the content that's there still it addresses the needs of your visitors. Over time, those pages can kind of get cluttered and, you want to add more information or change things around. So this is a good time to examine those landing pages and program and service pages to make sure that the content on those are still good. And of course, besides the questions you have here today, I'm sure you're going to leave here and think of other questions. So gather those questions together. And if you would like to, submit a support request to ask questions, that's also acceptable. But we'll definitely do our best to get any of your questions answered as we roll you on to the new thing. And also join our Chief Digital Officer, Nikhil, for a lunch and learn that he is doing on February 16th, where he will talk more about the theme and preview more of the design. So this was just kind of like a, hey, this is coming. We don't want to blindside you with, this all the changes that are coming. But Nikhil will likely get more into the design and the vision for the new thing. All right, so questions.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hey.
So there were a couple, but Yen and I have answered, I think, two, but we have one that is about, can the Bloom template be downloaded?
So right now our themes can be downloaded, but we are working on a design system that will essentially use the design components and code from this new theme. So you'll be able to source the code and the CSS for different components that you will also see on your theme. We'll definitely keep you posted on the progress for that as well. We're in the kind of the beta phase of rolling that out, but yeah, that will be the way that you'll be able to source the design rather than downloading an entire template or something, because this is, our site is built in Drupal, but we want to offer a design system that will allow you to apply these designs to any type of application, not just a Drupal based one.
Okay, we have one more. Can video be housed without YouTube?
I think what you're asking is, can you upload videos to your site? And the answer is no. Videos are huge and they take up a lot of space. And our system is not really equipped to handle video hosting like YouTube. So we support YouTube, and I want to say Vimeo as well. So, if you don't like YouTube for whatever reason, we do support Vimeo, but it's best to house your videos with sites that are built for that, and then reference them on your site.
Okay, thank you. And another one, will there be a style guide created?
So that's essentially what the design system is a style guide, but with code. There'll be a lot of documentation on the design system site that will guide you, will provide guidance and standards for using the designs. But if there's something that you need in the immediate future, we can get together and provide you with some style guidance as well. But also, for now, we have style guidance on the current theme on orchard.georgia.gov. So you can go there and get guidance with what the current theme has. But for Bloom, we're going to be building a design system with a lot more useful tools.
All right, we have a couple more that have come in. The first one is, will there be stock images we can access, especially with icon tiles going away?
So even though icon tiles are going away, we still have icon lists, which use the same icons. So it's just a different way to display that icon tile. It'll just be, which is still like a square or rectangle, display of content with an icon. So it's not totally going away. It's just going to be a different representation of the same thing. But we provide resources to free stock image libraries. Again, we try to offer free resources and open resources to accompany our philosophy of being open source. So I think we have a link, and maybe Yin can pop it in the chat, to our site where we provide some links to some good stock image sites.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, our next one is, will current content or micro content that's going to be replaced or restructured, like heroes, icon tiles, etc., need to be created again, or will the changes automatically update the existing?
That's a great question. So for the things that are going away, so for text blocks, we are migrating that content for you. So you don't have to do anything there. We're moving those to promos for you. For the icon tiles going away, we're planning to assist you with converting those to icon lists when we onboard you to the new theme. So there's nothing for you to do right now unless you just want to take that upon yourself and go ahead and change those things out. But we are planning to assist you with all of that.
Great. All right. A couple more right now. What is the timetable for the rollout, and can we apply Bloom to the staging site before production as a way to preview and update the content prior to rolling out to production?
Yes. So previewing your site prior to the rollout is a part of the rollout. So we're not going to just flip the switch on you and you wake up one day and your site looks totally different. A part of the rollout will be reviewing your site and making sure it looks good before we move it, turn the theme on in production. So yes, you will be able to preview it in staging before it goes to production and give us the okay. The timeline for the rollout is this year, and I'm being vague about it because we want to make sure that the development and everything is done before we start putting people in rounds and assigning people time frames to have this new theme. So again, this will be more to come from the outreach team to talk more about the actual timeline for the rollout.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I think one question that was going back to the videos when that question got brought up is, will embed codes for videos work the same as they do now?
Yep, that is not changing. That is definitely not something that is changing.
And one other one is, this may be a little in the weeds, but can you explain what an icon list is?
So an icon list is an existing micro content type, and it is essentially a way for you to display a list of links accompanied with an icon. So if you go into GovHub now and play around with the icon list, you'll see that it's very similar to a icon tile. It's just one is a square and one is just a list with an icon next to it. So in the new design, they'll be even more similar. So that's why we decided to descope the icon tile and just move that kind of content into an icon list. But yeah, that's more of a, that's just a different micro content type that is not going away. The icon lists aren't going away. We're actually just going to repurpose them even more for icon tiles.
Awesome, thanks. We got one more that came in. When Bloom is released, is it possible to use the design for internal agency web applications? And if so, how is that accomplished?
Yes, and that is, again, where the design system that we're building is going to come into play. So once we roll out Bloom, we're trying to align on the amount of components that'll be available, like buttons and the font and all that stuff. The font is free. We'll provide a link in the design system for you to go grab that font and how to use it. That's where that, like I mentioned, the documentation around the guidance and everything will come into play. But we are simultaneously working on this design system. This design system is going to have the different components that are in the new theme, the code to be able to replicate them in your website or application. And like I said, the guidance around how to use the different components. Will this change how the forms look?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is essentially stuff like form elements and stuff that is just like a text, that is kind of just what we've been referring to as getting a coat of paint. Like, we're not redoing anything really crazy with the form designs. It's just going to take on the new fonts and the new colors and the things like that, the new spacing and things like that. But They're not going to function any differently. They're just going to look like the rest of the site, which is getting a refresh.
All right. I think that's all the questions for now. Yin did put in the chat, in case you didn't see it, that if you have other questions that you can think of, as you're processing all of this, you can send them through our support desk, and there's a link there in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and grab that, I'm sure it'll be in the email follow-up that goes out after this. And then she also did inform me that there would be some links to free image sites in that email. So if you're interested in looking for free images, you can use those links as well. So Jasmine, I will hand it over to you to do any other wrap up that you have.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And thank you all again for being here. This was just kind of an introduction to what's to come. I know you guys have a lot of questions, and there's going to be a lot of questions, or a lot of questions were left unanswered today, but we're planning to, again, speak about it in the Kills webinar, and we'll likely plan another webinar to get more into the details of like what's changing on the landing pages, the heroes, the tiles. So this will allow you to, start making some decisions about your content before the rollout. So, sit tight. It's going to be great. Don't stress too much. I think showing you the design, and I hope that you all are as excited as we are for you to have this new design. So again, thank you. And we look forward to speaking to you soon.